Hi everyone, welcome back to MUS119. Today we're going to get into Module 6B, and the topic is Chords in Context, Minor Key. So today we're going to take a look at the triads and seventh chords that are available in a minor key. So you must remember natural minor scale, which is right? And that's basically just starting from the sixth scale degree of its relative major. So in this case, C minor would have E flat major as its relative. Instead of starting from E flat, we go down two notes. That's the natural minor scale. But also, you remember that there are two other types of scales that we learned in minor, right? And those are the harmonic minor and the melodic minor. So if we take the natural minor and just the same thing we did to a major scale where you just put, two more notes on top of each note, which would kind of look like this. So this can work, but actually, if you look at the fifth chord and the one chord, so the 5 going to 1, right? Let me just play what's written here. So what we have is a G, B flat, and a D. It's a minor chord. We have a G minor chord here, going to a 1 minor, well, C minor. Or, in context, so if you remember in the previous lecture where we talked about, the major key, it's really important the relationship between the 5 to 1. And that is because, 5 going to 1 usually would be, right? It sounds really final. And in this case, the minor part, G minor going to C minor. Compare that with this version actually sounds much more final. And what I did was actually to raise this note, the B, to a B sharp. Sorry, the B flat to a B natural. Okay, so we have G, B flat, D, and instead of that, we're using G, B natural, D. And that gives you a much stronger resolution. So that's actually what's going to happen in our minor scale chords. Okay, so let's find all of the B's and turn them into, from B flat to B natural. So what's happening essentially is we have C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, and C. We are raising the 7th scale degree. We're raising it up a half step. So a B flat becomes B natural. And if this sounds familiar to you, yes, this is a harmonic minor. It's quite interesting sometimes when you talk to music theorists or composers, they will tell you that, actually the harmonic minor scale doesn't even exist, or the melodic minor scale doesn't even exist. And that's because, these scales from a long time ago, they come from something called church modes. And it's basically just taking, all the white keys and then starting on different notes. And so on. And when you have, these 7 different sets of scales, we have like a name for each of these. And the natural minor scale actually comes from one of these church modes, which is the Aeolian. And later, people just named it natural minor. So harmonic minor is somewhat artificial. And that's because, like we just looked at this one, where the G minor going to C minor doesn't really sound that final. So people had to change something to make it, sound like what they intend to. Suddenly it sounds a lot better. So just to make it easier for you guys, make sure that when you're writing chords in a minor scale, you are going to use the harmonic minor. And that means the 7th scale degree, you have to raise it up a half step. Okay, so a B flat becoming a B natural in this case. So here is a B, and then also here we have a B flat, right? So this note, also we have to turn it into a B natural. And there's also one other B, or B flat in this case, and that is right here. Well, let me write it a different way, right here. And this B, even though we're raising B flats to B natural, this one, we're going to keep it as it is. And you know why? Because right now, it sounds like E flat, G, and B flat. That is a major chord, right? Bright and sunny. And if we also change this to a B natural, then it would sound really crunchy, right? And we don't want that in our progression. We only use it for really special occasions. So in this case, please remember that there are 2 chords that you have to modify. That's going to be this one, the 5th chord, the 5, and the 7. These 2 chords you will have to modify. And which note do you modify? Well, that's going to be the 7th scale degree. Okay, so it's going to be this guy right here and this guy right here. And everything else we're not going to touch. Okay, so let's look at the next slide because that will show you the typed out version of what I just explained. So here, once again, I have put these 2 arrows to show you, hey, the 5th chord and the 7th chord. Please, please, please remember to raise the 7th scale degree. So if we look at this, we can find out that the first one chord, and the 4th chord, these are minor, right? These are minor. And then we have the 3 chord, 5, and 6. These are major. And then the diminished, the weird ones, is going to be 2 and 7. Okay, so this sounds like bit of context. Okay, so that's the progression that you just heard. And 1 is going to be minor, 4 is going to be minor, and 3, 5, and 6, major, major, major. And 2 chord is going to be diminished, 7th chord also diminished. They actually sound quite similar. Okay, so that's what we have. Now, we want to look at the 3 chords that always get a 7th, right? That always gets this extra note. But once again, when I say always, I mean, relative to the other chords. And we're talking about 2, 5, and 7, right? But just know that when you're analyzing any music, any actual music, you will only put the 7 if it has 4 different notes. If it doesn't have 4 different notes, then it is still a triad. Okay, so let's look at the next slide. Here we have 7th chords. Note that you must raise scale degree 7 in the 5, 7, and 7 diminished 7 chords. That's what we talked about already. Okay, now the chords that have these red circles, those are the 3 chords that we have to, consider the 4th note. So if you look at this one, we have a 2 half diminished 7. So remember, when it's in its triad form, we don't have such thing as a, fully diminished or half diminished. That only exists in seventh chords. So in this case, this is a 2 half diminished 7, and that's because if you calculate the half steps, you're gonna get a 3, 3, and 4. Remember, half diminished is 3, 3, 4. And then for a fully diminished, like this one, it's gonna be 3, 3, 3. From B, we go up 3 steps, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3. That's gonna give you a fully diminished 7 chord, right? And for the last one, it's D, F, A flat, and C. So actually between A flat and C, 1, 2, 3, 4, it has 4 half steps. So that's why it's a half diminished. So you're not gonna have time to be calculating the half steps. I'm sure you also won't want to actually do it because that takes so much time. So just memorize it, okay? 257s are going to be, these chords are going to be the ones that have the option to have a fourth note, but also the 2 chord is going to be a half diminished 7. And if we look back and think about the major scale, the 7th chord, when it has a fourth note, it's actually also a half diminished 7. So when you're doing your assignments, please pay attention to that. It's a very small detail, but it's still an important one. Okay, so 7 chords, we have 1, 2 half diminished 7, and then 3 triad, 4 minor 4 triad, and then 5, 7, that's 7th chord, and then major 6, and then 7 fully diminished 7, and back to 1. Okay, so this is something you should memorize. Whichever minor key you have to analyze the piece in, it's going to be the same. The letters are going to change, but the components of the chords are not going to change. So please make sure that you take a minute to really absorb the information. All right, now let's take a look at the exercise that I prepared for you. So what we have here is 4 sharps, and we have a C sharp minor. So pay attention, this is lowercase. Lowercase means that this is in minor. So once you find out that this is in minor, well, the first thing you have to do is to write out all of the chords. So we have C sharp minor. And please remember, we do need the key signatures. All right, so C sharp, if you look at the key signature, we have fat cats go down, right? F, C, G, D. So those ones are going to be sharp. So C sharp, D sharp. Actually, I think I have to write it slightly further away. Maybe here, C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, and back to C sharp. And now if we write the chords, so we start from C, E, G, and I'm just gonna go this way. Okay, now the very, very important part is the 5th chord and the 7th chord. Remember, we have to raise the 7th scale degree up a half step, right? So in this case, C sharp, the B is the one you have to raise. So B has to become B sharp. So I'm going to put a sharp here, B sharp, and also the 5th chord, the 5 chord, has a B sharp. But remember, the 3rd chord, we're not really going to do anything because, it's going to sound weird if we also raise the B. Now, I think we have somewhat of a complete chord progression, except that we haven't put down the Roman numerals. Okay, so let's do that. The Roman numerals are going to be 1 and 4 are going to be minor, right? And then we have 3 and 3, 5, and 6. These are going to be major. And then we have 2, that's going to be diminished. 7, also diminished. And that's when we haven't really added the 7th chords. So now let's add the 7th chords. So 2, 5, and 7, right? We have an optional 4th note, and here as well, and here as well. So actually, this looks a little weird. Yes, I put down something wrong. That would be an A here. Okay, so remember when we have the seventh chord, it's going to change. It's going to be a half diminished 7 for the 2, 5/7 is just 5/7, and this one is going to be a 7 fully diminished 7. Okay, now we have the complete chord progression in the C sharp minor key. So the next step is to reduce this, reduce the chords into close position, right? So close position, we're gonna have here C sharp, E, C sharp, G sharp. And once again, I would encourage you to write out all of the letter names, just because it will make things a lot easier in the later part. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do this. All right, so now we have this, and next step is to have the close position, right? So C sharp, E, and G. That's pretty simple. C sharp, E, and G. Next one is B sharp, F, D, A. Well, this one has 4 different notes, so this is definitely going to be a 7th chord. And here, once again, C sharp, E, G sharp, and the next one, F sharp, A, C sharp. And the next one is C sharp, G sharp, C sharp, E, so we can have C sharp, E, and then G sharp. All we're doing is to build, the close position chords, and right now we're not dealing with any inversions yet, so it's all going to be root position. So here, A, C sharp, E, F sharp, A, C sharp, and then we have 4 different notes again: G sharp, B sharp, D sharp, F sharp. That's a lot of sharp. We have C sharp, E sharp, E, and G sharp. So now I think we can start to look at the Roman numerals. So in this case, we have C sharp as the bass. So that's going to be the 1 chord for sure. And the next one is a B sharp. That's the bass. B sharp is going to be this guy here. So that's going to be a 7 fully diminished 7. And the next one is a 1 minor 1 chord. The next one, F sharp, A, C sharp. That's going to be this one. So it's going to be a 4 chord. And next it's a 1 chord, A, C sharp, E. That's going to be 6. And all I'm doing is referring back to this separate sheet of paper, a little thing, and just finding out what the root of the chord is, and just going back and forth. So the next one, F sharp, A, C sharp. That's going to be the 4 chord. Oh, that's going to be a minor 4. And this one, 4 notes, so that has to be a 7. It's going to be a 5, 7. And finally, we have a 1 chord. Okay, so that is basically it. Let's hear the example, actually. So just going back to the very beginning of this lecture, remember we started with the natural minor, and I was saying the natural minor doesn't really work because the 7th scale degree is not raised and you just don't feel that tension. So let me play it that way. Let me just play the last 3 chords. So if we change it to a natural minor, that's what it would sound like. It sounds pretty good actually. But compare that with the second version. Definitely sounds a lot more intense, and that's what we usually want. Okay, so I think this is it for our module 6b. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me, and if not, I will see you in the next lecture. Take care, everyone.